Hello, and welcome to Conversations with Cully and Conlon. I am your host, the best podcast host in the universe, Steve Cully. I would like to thank our sponsors at Procyon Partners. They are one of the top 50 fastest growing companies in the nation. They specialize in employee benefits, wealth management, and retirement planning. President Sean Rabinowitz, proud supporter of our podcast network, and we love him very much. Green Street Trust International, owned and operated by Rennell Jump. They specialize in tax planning for businesses large or small. They will save you money or get you a big fat return. To schedule your free strategic tax planning session today, go to www.greenstreettrust.com. Pete Finch and the Finch Law Firm, located in Bridgeport, Connecticut. If you've suffered any type of personal injury, a slip and fall, car accident, your mother-in-law decided to run you over with her car, your wife had a bad night, decided to stab you, the Finch firm is for you. Pete has won legal battles all over the state of Connecticut. He's not afraid of insurance companies. He will go to war to get every dollar you deserve in compensation. And you have to remember, if you're in a pinch, call Finch. You can check out his website. It's just thefinchfirm.com. Dynamic Human Performance, owned and operated by UConn legendary running back Andre Dixon. He has a 5,000 square foot state-of-the-art facility in Hartford, Connecticut, trains boys and girls of all ages, of all sports. He has a boot camp program 7 days a week at 6 a.m. You want to get in shape? You go to Andre. He has an athletic development program where he trains boys and girls in the sport of their choice from the ground up, develops them, helps them to reach their full potential, be the best they can possibly be. Andre has sent boys and girls to college on scholarship for all different types of sports. So if you're in Connecticut and you want to work with the best, work with Andre, go to www.dynamichumanperformance.com. Down south, we have Julius Williams and the Trench Mob. Julius trains offensive and defensive linemen. They compete in 5v5 tournaments all across the country. The tournaments are timed with rounds and scored by points. Julius's squad was undefeated this past year, and they went on a college showcase basically all across the country to the camps. And proud to say, at every camp the Trench Mob attended, a member was offered a full scholarship to college. Incredible accomplishment. Julius also has a virtual program where you can be part of the Trench Mob wherever you are located. He will be with you every step of the way, showing you how to train, lift weights, run, and do the position drills that make the Trench Mob as great as they are. Julius has sent kids to Florida, Florida State, Miami, Tennessee, Clemson, Georgia, Alabama, just to name a few. So if you are a lineman and you want to work with the best of the best, work with Julius, go to www.battleofthetrenches.com. Our newest sponsor, James Whitfield of Luther James Insurance. For the past 3 years, James has dedicated himself to the art of financial planning. He provides financial stability to first responders and law enforcement officers. He also sells insurance policies. He specializes in life insurance, and he does retirement planning. He understands that thinking about retirement can be frustrating, and knowing how much you're going to need, how long it's going to last, it can be a weight that's on your shoulders. James is there to help lift it off. So go to him, because fear of the unknown is real. You can get a free quote at his website and contact him, LutherJamesInsurance.com. Now for the lady of the hour, UConn legendary women's basketball player, head coach at Western Connecticut State University, Maria Conlon. It's great to see you, Maria.
Good to see you.
Yes. I think I did a better job staying at your house this time. I tried to be a little cleaner. I don't think I broke anything. So
I don't think you broke anything the first time either, and you were clean the first time, so I think you're good.
no, but thank you. I love staying at your house. It's so beautiful, and what you did to the deck outside. It's amazing that you built it. I'm still at awe after seeing it in person.
Yeah, and we didn't really get to hang out there. You were pretty busy when you were here, so
I know.
we'll have to do that next time.
Yes,
But
yes, for sure.
anyways,
I love coming there. I got to spend time with the little guy, and I just can't believe how much he talks. And he is a riot. He cracks me up.
yeah, he's definitely unique, that's for sure. But yeah, you guys got along good. I mean, anytime someone's gonna play with dinos and cars with him, you're gonna be best friends. So those are his two non-negotiables.
Yes, I can see that. I can see that, and he knows what he wants. He
He
knows exactly
does.
what he
He
wants.
does. Yeah. So
So I wanted to ask a lot of questions were coming in about was it Sophie Cunningham? She had an injury, and Indiana for the WNBA has been slightly dropping. Caitlin Clark has missed the majority of the season. So there's people who think that maybe they should shut Caitlin Clark down instead of bringing her back in the hopes of getting a high draft pick for the 2026 season. Do you think that Caitlin should come back and play? I mean, she's only played 9 games this season. Indiana, I think, is in 7th place currently right now. And people are just wondering if it's worth it for her to come back and risk doing further damage. How far could they really go if they make the playoffs? And, thinking long term, what would be best for the team?
yeah, I mean, again, I think she will come back. I think that her, as we've discussed before, I think her injuries are more nagging than anything, but I think she's gotten a decent amount of rest now. They're 6th in the standings, which means they would open up against New York in the first round if everything settled up today, which is not an unbeatable matchup, I don't think, for them. I think they actually match up with them pretty well. So I think the really big question is she going to be able to come back and elevate them to a new level for the playoffs, or is she still going to be kind of nursing an injury? So I think, the timetable, I think they're smart to hold her out as long as they have been, because unless you fully heal, hamstrings, quads, hips, etc., like that, it's not like it's a surgical injury at this point. So I think she comes back, and I think, so long as she doesn't, come back half speed or a quarter of speed or whatever, it should elevate them for the playoffs. And, they're still in the hunt. I think, as long as you can avoid Minnesota as long as possible, you're in a good spot. If they win a couple of games, I don't think they're that far off 5th, which would put them against, they're like 2 games. They're 2 games behind Las Vegas, which would put them in 5th, which means they would see the Phoenix Mercury in the first round, which I think would be interesting because DeWanna Bonner obviously started this season with the Indiana Fever, and now she's in Phoenix. So I would be really interested to see that matchup, but we'll see how it goes.
The other big news has been, I guess, the rise of the Las Vegas Aces. And you had been a proponent of them from the beginning of the season. They started off a little slow. The first half of the season wasn't as great as expected, but they have really saved their season and have started to come back and are looking like a tough team come playoff time. So what are your thoughts on them going on a run and getting back into the mix.
Yeah, again, I think, injuries plagued them a little bit early on. Asia Wilson missed some games in there. And she's
Right.
one of those players where, like, when you take her off the court, now you gotta find like 20 and 12 every game, and that's not necessarily the greatest situation. Sometimes if a couple of people can pick up a little bit of the slack. I thought they made some decent changes midway through the season with their roster. And, I mean, we have a team that's won championships. So, their key players know how to win, their coach knows how to win. So I'm still like, if I'm somebody in the playoffs, I definitely don't want to get them in the first round.
No.
As of right now, they would open up with Phoenix in the first round, which I think would be a really cool matchup to see. But I think the Aces take it, just based off of experience, etc. So, yeah, not shocked with where they are just because of their veteran pedigree and their coach. But anything can happen down the stretch.
Was the MVP last year, correct?
Correct. Yep.
Yeah. So that was a big loss, and getting her back definitely made a huge difference. And Becky Hammond is a phenomenal coach, correct?
Yep. Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, it's really bottlenecked in that 6 through 10 spot. We got a bunch of teams that are 1 game behind or 2 games behind, and still a decent little chunk here left to the season. So, really anything can happen.
So I was going to ask, because the power rankings kind of changed quite a bit. Obviously, Minnesota, a clear-cut number 1. They have dominated the league, and you have also been a big proponent of Minnesota, and you've said that they've been great, and they were going to be tough to contend with. And Napheesa Collier has been phenomenal. She's had a few injuries, but I mean, they're still winning. Do you agree with them being ranked number 1?
Yeah, I mean, no one's proven that they should be knocked out of that spot. I mean, I think they have the best player in the league this year, Napheesa Collier. I think they have all the right pieces to make a deep playoff run and win it. I just think they're going to be really tough to beat in a 5-game series. I think getting them 3 times out of 5 is going to be really hard for anybody right now. And the Fish was out for a couple of games too.
Yeah.
She had her own injury, and they didn't really skip a beat. I mean, they weren't blowing people out like they were when they had her, but they've also shown that other people have the ability to step up in her absence. So, yeah, I see them as the most dangerous team in the WNBA. We've been saying that since preseason. I just think that they have all the pieces that you need to win a championship this year. So I think they're the team to beat.
And we talked about the Aces, and they actually moved up from 5th to 2. They're 21-14, and they said that it was the 53-point loss to Minnesota that really kind of springboarded them to a 7-game winning streak, and that's what moved them up in the power rankings. And they beat New York, they beat Phoenix, they beat Dallas, and they could continue to move up. They're not far behind, and according to ESPN, they could even get up to number 2. And Asia Wilson, averaging 26 points a game, 13 rebounds over this win streak, the 7 games, could find herself back in the MVP race. Do you really think they could get that high and make it to number 2?
Yeah, I mean, again, I think the big thing for them was finding a healthy perimeter. Now with Jackie Young and Chelsea Gray kind of hitting their stride, I think that was the last little piece they needed. They made a nice trade for Nylisa Smith from the Dallas Wings. So that gives, Asia Wilson a really strong, steady backup to come in and play some minutes for them. So yeah, I think absolutely. I mean, going into the season, all things being the same, Kelsey Plum was a huge loss for them.
Yeah.
because she did a lot of the heavyweight pulling on the perimeter, from the guard, the wing position. She's able to play the 1 and 2, so can alleviate some stress from Chelsea Gray. But I think if like you look at preseason, I think everybody was kind of saying, Minnesota, New York, Las Vegas, right? So they've
Absolutely. Yeah.
been, kind of the top three now for a couple of years, and I think they just struggled in the beginning of the season to find that identity without Kelsey. Um, but I think they've done that, and they've been pretty healthy since All-Star break. So um, I wouldn't be surprised if we saw like a Minnesota Las Vegas finals. But I also wouldn't be surprised if we see a Minnesota Atlanta final or Minnesota New York final. So, those top four teams in the WNBA right now are really, really strong.
And that was the next theme we were going to talk about. Atlanta is number 3. They have just been phenomenal. They're 22-12. They lost their starting point guard, who is going to be out for another week. That's one of their biggest concerns. But is it Ryan Howard?
Ryan Howard, yep.
Yeah, her return has been impressive, and she had 60 points and 14 assists this past week, and they split games with Seattle and Golden State. But Atlanta has been a surprise to some people all season. Do you see that as a surprise? Do you think that they're in the top 5?
I mean, yes, absolutely. I mean, they're in, they're third in power rankings. They're second in the league right now. New coach, they made a lot of changes during the offseason. This is a team that lost in the first round of the playoffs last year and just kind of skated right into one of those last spots. So, yes, I think it's definitely a shock, but I think the coaching staff has done a really good job. I think they made some really important necessary trades and different decisions to overhaul their roster a little bit to, aim on being in that championship conversation.
Yeah, no, it's been good to see for them. And then New York was the one that dropped the most. They were ranked second. They are now 4th in the power rankings, mainly because they lost their first 3 matchups against the Lynx, and they have Brianna Stewie is sidelined. So what do you think could happen there with New York, with the injury problems, with the losses that they've had? Do you think that they'll settle down and get things back on track and stay where they are, or possibly move up?
Yeah, I mean, I think if Stewie can get healthy and get back into the groove, anything's possible. I mean, she's a top 5 player in the WNBA right now. Sabrina is playing good basketball. They got a lot of good. I mean, this is a team that won a championship a year ago. So,
yeah, they're the reigning champs.
I think, yeah, absolutely, they can pull it together and get back up there. I think for them right now, it's just body management, right? Trying to get everybody healthy for that playoff push, which has been a really consistent theme this summer. Is just, teams. It's one thing when your team has injuries. It's another thing when your team has injuries to really key players for extended periods of time. And, I think we've seen that some teams have the ammunition to play through that and still win some games, and some struggle without those key players. So, I hope, for all the women's basketball fans out there, that everybody gets healthy for the playoffs, and everybody wants to see the top players play, right? So, hopefully we can get back to a point where we see that. But there's no reason why New York couldn't win a championship again. I think they have the pieces to do it. I think it's just about syncing at the right time and getting everybody back healthy.
And that's been some of the news that's been talked about, is the injuries, especially across the league at the guard position. And, there's questions as to why that is happening. Is it the travel? Is it the scheduling? Is it the load management? Or do you just think injuries happen?
Yeah, I mean, I think injuries happen. I think we've seen in my opinion, in the games that I've watched, a lot more physicality on the perimeter.
Right.
Which obviously exposes more athletes to injury. I don't think it's like a load man. I mean, we're talking,
It's 30.
what they
30.
played what 30 something games at this
Yeah.
point. So, I don't think that that's crazy. I don't necessarily think it's the travel. I mean, it's no different than we've seen in other years. Sometimes you just see years with more injuries than others, but I do think the physicality has been a little bit of a factor this year in, seeing some more key guards be out with extended injuries for sure.
And the officiating has been a huge talk across the league. And people are starting to blame it on the pay for WNBA officials because they don't feel that they're getting the best. WNBA officials are paid like $1,800 a game. So they think that they're getting the poor quality of officials, and the officiating across the board has been worse this season than ever. Do you think the pay scale has anything to do with it, or do you think it's more experience?
I mean, listen, I hope it's not the pay, right? I mean, $1,800 a
Yeah.
game. So, you're getting paid like $900 an hour, which is a pretty freaking good gig. So I really hope that's not it. Again, I just think that the players that we're getting from the college level and the way that
Right.
they're trying to grow the game is just causing a lot more physicality. I think the speed is really different. So, I think that in the off season, if I had to guess, we'll probably see a lot of reflection and some changes in the way that games are officiated. But I really hope it's not the pay, and I don't
Yeah.
think, like, what are we going to have, a referee strike? Like, come on.
Yeah. Exactly.
I mean, the game is the
Exactly.
game. I mean, these are the same refs that we've had for the last 8 to 10 years.
Yeah.
So no, I just think the game's evolving and the tightness and the
Yeah.
way that
Yeah.
we
I,
officiate the game has got to change a little bit. That's all.
yeah. The physicality of it has definitely increased. Fifth on the list, Phoenix Mercury. They dropped from fourth, and they have one of the MVP hopefuls, Alyssa Thomas. She got her fifth triple double of the season. She's been playing great, but they've only been 5-5 over their last 10 games. Do you see them possibly again catching fire and finishing August strong? There's only 9 games left in the season overall.
Yeah, I think again, they were playing great basketball before the All-Star break, right?
Right.
I think they were playing a lot better than people thought they would if you're comparing them to last season. Again, I mean, look at it. We got Alyssa Thomas now in the Phoenix Mercury, right? And she's led Connecticut the last couple of years
Yeah.
to one of the top 4 spots in the league and gone far in the playoffs. So I think no surprise there. I mean, she's a triple double monster over there. I mean, she puts up crazy numbers, but then we see that it's just funny how coaching styles, franchises, and player chemistry and makeup can really significantly change a player
It
or
does.
team, because now you got Brittany Griner, who was on Phoenix for her entire career, who's on the Atlanta Dream, and the Atlanta Dream are
Exactly.
second. So, I think it's been interesting to see how you can shuffle around some players to different franchises and situations and they flourish, right? Versus
Yeah.
whatever. And with the Phoenix Mercury, I think they're having a tough time adjusting to having DeWanna Bonner on the roster, right? She spent the
Right.
first, pretty much first half of the season with the Indiana Fever. Now they're getting her back into the groove there in Phoenix. She's someone, she's what, like third or she's in the top 5 all time for scoring in the
Scoring, yeah.
WNBA. So, they got some nice pieces there, but just because you've scored a lot of points everywhere else you've been doesn't mean you're going to jump into the same situation in the middle of the season like that, which is really hard. So I think they're just adjusting to what that looks like with her. But again, they're another team that can make a deep playoff run.
So another team that made a jump and a team that I am obviously a fan of, Golden State, 18 and
Your girl,
16.
Caitlin Chen. That's your girl.
Careful. We had Joe on our Husky Huddle show yesterday, and he was nice to remind me of that.
Yeah.
Golden State, 18 and 16. They were 8th previously. They are 6th now. Veronica Burton is making her case for that Most Improved Player award. She tallied 57 points, 13 rebounds, and 14 assists last week as Golden State beat Washington and Chicago before losing to Atlanta. So she has obviously been flourishing with the expansion Golden State team.
Yeah, I mean, again, I said this early on. I'm not surprised by the Golden State standings right now.
No, you won't.
I think they hired the perfect coach for the job. I think the players have really bought in to,
Was that the guy that you know, or was that the Washington guy?
No, yeah, the Washington guy's the guy I know, but the Golden State Valkyrie head coach, she was with the Aces for years, so she knows what it takes to build a championship team. She knows what it takes to, make one thrive. So, and they got some really great picks in the expansion draft, and I think they've made some really great adjustments. And again, when you have a team that's really bought in, uh, I'm not shocked at all. And to be honest, they're not a team that I would want to see in the first round of the playoffs.
No,
So
they're playing well. I'm gonna skip Indiana because the other team that you liked and you talked about, Washington, is currently 8th. They have a young team, but they surprised a lot of people by trading leading scorer Brittany Sykes to Seattle earlier this month. And people were thinking that they were looking ahead to next season, but they're still in the playoff race thanks to the rookies they drafted, Sonia Citron and Kiki. But they still are playing tough. They're playing well. They look like they're just having fun out there. Do you see them getting into the playoffs?
yeah, I mean that again, like that 6 through 10 is really only separated by
Right.
a game or two. So it's going to be a battle down the stretch to see who gets those last couple of spots. I think, they made some interesting trades, I thought, during or right after All-Star break that again, I think they're just still adjusting to, I mean, they got a really, really young team. So anytime you have a young team, a new coach, all of that, and then you throw some different changes midway through. But I think like if I'm Washington, I'm really happy about the future of the franchise. Sonia Citron to me is really the only rookie that I feel like is pushing Paige for rookie of the year. She is steady as hell. She puts up great numbers every game. She looks like a veteran out there. And then, with Kiki in the mix, I think, she's another one that if it's any other year, I think she could make a push for rookie of the year. So I think you got two of the best rookies that we've seen in the draft this year. I know I said it way back on draft night. I thought Washington did a phenomenal job with the draft. Obviously, Georgia Amore is out for the season. She's another rookie that they got early on that, I think is just going to help this franchise take it to another level. Obviously, we won't see her this year, but they're young and they're promising.
So Dave and I were having a conversation yesterday, and he's coached both women's sports and men's sports, and he wanted me to ask you. He seems to believe there is a huge difference between the way men play sports and women play sports. He thinks that whenever women are out there, they love to have fun. They have a lot more fun together. They love being together. And it's a much different atmosphere than with the men. So that's what he wanted me to ask you about, because he said that when he tried to coach his women's track team, like the men, they, it was strict and they struggled with it and they did not respond well. When he allowed them to kind of let loose a little bit, he said they were all having fun. They were all talking. They were all really dancing. And they were embracing the time that they spent together. So he wanted to know if you thought there was a difference between women's and men's teams and coaching them.
Yeah, I think that, in women's sports, in addition to, them being really, really talented, like you see on the men's side, I think that they're just more team oriented. I think
Yes.
it's more we versus me in women's sports, and there's that sense of camaraderie, there's that sense of pride. Not to say that there aren't male players out there that don't have that, but I think it's just more prevalent in women's sports than it is in men's. I think, you have women that aren't getting paid millions and millions of dollars to be out there every day. I think they truly appreciate what they get a little bit more. And, that shows up on the court or on the field.
So that brings me to my other question, because I went off on this on my other show. I had a chance to watch Diana's documentary, and I also know you got to go to the premiere. And she took some flack for a comment she made about the pay, and saying something about it being equivalent to the janitor making the same amount of money. I said, this is a generational player who transcended the league, who came in and was making $46,000, and she was forced to go basically play 12 months a year for whatever it was, 15 seasons, because she was making the kind of money that she was worth over in Russia and other countries. And the comment really had nothing to do with janitors. It was a comment as to the league not being able to pay the stars what they're worth. Now, with the new CBA coming out, the television deal, the salary should be higher, but she was there and really pioneered the league through some of the roughest times and was a force, and she couldn't get paid like that. And, she said it was more like a summer job playing in the WNBA. And going over to Russia, they were taken care of. They were paid more. They had some of the best talent over there. But I think it says more to her work ethic and knowing it doesn't last forever. Whatever professional sports career you have, you're on a limited time. And you have to make the most in that time if you want to be set for life. And that's exactly what she did. And I just commend her for her determination, desire, and work ethic to go over there. I mean, it's hostile territory. I don't think anyone wants to go to Russia, but she's going there because she knows she has an opportunity to get paid what she's worth. She's getting paid 3 times, 4 times what she's getting paid in the WNBA. And I don't think that was wrong. And I was very angry, and I messaged her about it. I said, you were such a force. You won national championships. You were, I still think, the Michael Jordan of the league. And, it took a while to even get paid comparably. Even in her last season, she made $234,000. I think she's worth way more than that. But I really thought the comment was taken out of context, and the flack that she got for it was definitely unwarranted.
Yeah, I mean, I think what we see is that there are some players that no matter what they say or do, it's always going to be taken out of context, and there's always going to be a spin. I mean, first of all, the documentary was phenomenal.
I thought it was too.
It was real. It was authentic.
Yeah.
it was so her. And I
Very
think
well done.
the cool part is that, you know, if you know her, you know how private she is. And to see her, you know, open up and
What's doing?
tell the stories like she did, I thought was remarkable. And I think that, like, if you're a fan of women's basketball, or you have a daughter, you know someone who's really passionate about, you know, playing the sport, and you don't see after watching that documentary that Diana Taurasi single-handedly saved the league in so many ways.
Yep.
Like, you know, if I'm Caitlin Clark or I'm Paige Beckers or I'm some of these young players, like, I'm kissing the ground that she walks
He
on,
walked
because
on.
the league would not have survived if Diana basically just said, you know what, you know, I'm just going to play in Russia. I'm going to take the summers off to spend time with my family and to rest and to, you know, do the things that a normal person should be able to do during a vacation. And, you know, it's like, if you're a CEO of a major company, you're not going to risk what you do on a daily basis that's paying you the amount of money that you want to be paid and you deserve to be paid to, you know, go play in traffic, right? Like, you're not running around in traffic where you can potentially not have the ability to do the thing that makes you your most money, which is what a lot of these WNBA players did by playing in their home country.
Yeah.
You know, the big check, their what pays their bills, what creates their lifestyle was abroad. And, you know, for them to come home basically on their time off, you know, I'll call it a holiday, right? That's what they call it overseas. They're on holiday from where they make the real money, and they're still putting their bodies out there. They're
For us.
traveling, they're staying away from family. So, you know, I think she can make whatever the heck comment she wants to make in my book. She wasn't wrong in
Not
what
at
she was
all.
saying. You know, again, if you're the CEO of a company, chances are you're making more money than the cleaning service that comes in and empties the trash cans every night. And I think, you know, that janitor who's cleaning the arena certainly wouldn't have a job if it wasn't for her filling the seats every night. So, you know, I think you're right. I think it was taken out of context. If that's what people took out of that documentary, it's really sad. It's really a shame. You know, I think what we saw is someone who got kind of pigeonholed into, here's what we want the WNBA brand to look like. We don't care
Exactly.
about what your authentic self is, which for her was always what made her great, was that brashness, that swagger, that
The
edge.
killer instinct.
It was them saying, like, all right, you got to turn all that down. We're giving you a makeup artist. Here's how we want you to look. Here's how we want you to feel to make our league survive, which is now allowing all these other players that are there now to be their authentic selves,
They
right?
are.
And I think the shift for the WNBA was really, and I said that from the beginning, like, let's not try to make this like a league of their own, right? Like, have you ever seen that movie, A League of Their Own? Great movie. But, like, you know, what they
I know
basically
what you're
did was
saying.
say, like, you guys are really great at baseball, but we want you to do it and present it
Yes.
really girly way,
You have to
right?
sexualize it. Yes.
Yeah, and I think they did the same thing with the WNBA in the beginning, which, you know, I can't imagine if Diana was coming out of college this past year. I mean, what a remarkable person who was never really allowed to be herself, doing the thing that she loved to do the most, bringing people joy. And I think that's sad, but it's also at the same time, I think it's awesome to see the progress that we've made.
Yeah.
Um, you know, in allowing people to really live within their authentic selves.
Yeah. And she also commented, like, she missed so much by doing that schedule. She said, like, I was missing out on life
Yeah.
because 12 months a year I'm doing this so I can set myself up to retire comfortably and live the life I want to live. So I have to grind it out now. But, she even said, I was missing time with my parents. I was missing time with my family. I was sacrificing for this because of the way the WNBA was structured and the way that things were structured overseas. I had to do that to get my worth, to get my value. And that's what I found so really inspiring from her, was that she sacrificed to do that, to get the money, to get what she was worth, because she couldn't get it over here. And then she played over here basically for the fans, for the city, for Phoenix, and much in worse conditions, with chartered, where they didn't have chartered flights. The travel was a lot worse. The schedule was tough. And, you're playing tougher competition, but you're not getting paid nearly a fraction of what you should be getting paid. But she did it for the fans. And I commend her for her sacrifice.
I think the key thing, again, for anyone who's watched the documentary, and if you haven't, I definitely recommend
amazing.
checking it out. But the fans, the franchise, the whatever, all that is great, right? It's like being a performer in a circus, right? Like you take one great act out of there, and the circus is kind of blah, right?
Yeah.
So. But at the same time, I think what was really crucial, and she said this in the documentary, I mean, one of her best friends, Todd, who's also has been one of her basketball trainers for years now, they interviewed him basically saying, like, why are you even playing in the WNBA? Like, what are you doing? You're putting yourself at risk. And I thought what was awesome, and is so her, again, if you don't know her, just trust me on this, like, she didn't do it for the fans. She didn't do it for the league. She did it for the Paige Beckers and the Caitlin Clarks of the world, so that they would in the future have a place and not have to do all the things that she did. It's like there's always someone throughout history that's kind of paved the way for all the people after them. And she is so that person for the WNBA. She sacrificed who she was. She sacrificed her own comfort. She sacrificed, her mental and emotional being in order to pave the way for the future. So, kudos to her. Well done documentary. Katie did an awesome job with it. I thought she touched on so many. You could have had a 30 episode docuseries about Dee, right? And I thought she did a really good job of condensing it, but also bringing to life who she really is. So it was really cool to see. Like I said, anyone listening that hasn't checked it out yet, check it out. It's on Amazon Prime.
Yes.
Even if you got to pay a couple bucks for it, it's worth it. It's better than any movie you're going to see in the theaters right now. So make it happen.
Yeah, no, I agree. It was very well done. And it really touched on the main points that needed to be touched on. And you finally, for the casuals, got to see Dee as Dee. And I thought that was really special. And and she deserved that. She deserved that. And she was a trailblazer. And the way I look at it is she left the league in a much better place than she found it when she started. And that shows the character and the effect and the type of player she was. But she left it much better off than when it started.
Oh, yeah. I mean, absolutely. And I think, she's just, I think your first statement is like, she's the Michael Jordan of women's basketball. I think it's so spot on in many ways. I think from a marketing standpoint, we're kind of seeing Caitlin Clark reap the benefits of that, right? Yeah. Like Michael was the best player, but he also was the first one to really like brand it.
He did
it internationally. And I just don't think that decades that Diana was in the WNBA, I don't think we're ready for that level of authenticity and exposure. So I do think that from a marketing standpoint, like Caitlin's reaping the benefits of a lot of that. I won't even say Paige because I don't think she's reaping as many marketing dollars as Caitlin is kind of being the golden girl of the WNBA. But yeah, Dee did all that.
100%. And I think Paige it appears to me, she has been much more reserved. I don't know that she's gotten as much attention from the media as Caitlin did her rookie year, and I think that may play a part in it. Paige, it just seems like she's playing well. She's going to be rookie of the year. She's phenomenal, but she's not talking about it as much. She's not getting the coverage as much. Caitlin got coverage, every time she blinked her eyes, it seemed, last year. And I think that made the difference.
Yeah, and I think I always look at it in terms of you're a product of where you came from. I think
Yes.
Caitlin came from a small market state, and really, people just really gravitated to her style, the way that she did things. And I think with Paige, it's like, all right, it's just another All-American coming out of
She's
Connecticut.
been there before. Yeah.
You know what I mean? So I think that played against her in a lot of ways. And we've seen that a lot with UConn players going into the league, is it's kind of like, all right, yeah, like you're supposed to be a stud. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And Caitlin coming from a small market state, I think that just changed things. But I got to be honest. I mean, I think Paige I would take her 100 out of 100 times over Caitlin Clark. If
I would too. I would too.
And she's such a good teammate. Like, I've talked about this in the past. Like,
exactly.
Her teammates genuinely love her.
Yeah.
And I've always said this about Caitlin, because I do think she's generational talent. I think she's phenomenal. I just don't think she's as likable.
She's not as likable.
But and I think some of the
All-Star voting. I mean, she was voted 9th.
Yeah, by people, because again, I just think that if you're listen, if you're a player, you're not a fan, right? So
yeah.
I think fans gravitate towards all this stuff that people are throwing out, and I think ballers know ballers, and I think not only do they know that, but they respect the way Paige interacts with their teammates, the way she backs them up in press conferences, and just the way she goes about her brand is so much more likable than Caitlin. And it's not necessarily Caitlin's fault, right? Like, it's a marketing machine. And I think the WNBA and women's basketball in general has kind of, unfortunately put Caitlin on this really high pedestal. Yeah. And she's not living up to it this year. Obviously, a lot of that is due to an injury. But, I think part of it too is that she's just not as well liked by her peers in the league.
No. And I don't think she has the personality like Paige does. Paige seems much more outgoing, much more friendlier with fans, and I could absolutely see why her teammates appreciate and love playing with her. Yeah. I just wanted to say that you had a question that you answered a couple weeks ago from Rebecca. She was very thankful and grateful. It had to do with AAU teams, and she got her daughter into a different AAU program, and her daughter is flourishing, and she was thrilled about it and just wanted to thank you and appreciates everything you do and the show does to highlight and talk about women's sports. So
I'm glad it was helpful. It's always good to be in a good spot for your kid. So it's important.
All right. I just want to mention Ned Von Young, Fresh Fold Laundry Company, Chapel Hill, North Carolina, high-end laundry service. They have a pickup service, 20-mile radius. You book online, you put your clothes outside, they come and get them, wash, dry, fold them, lightning speed records. They have an online subscription model, weekly or bi-weekly. They have deals for college students, all you college kids going back to school, Duke, North Carolina A&T, anyone in that area, deals for you. Check out their website, freshfold-laundry.com. For Maria Conlon, UConn legend, and Western Connecticut State University head coach, I'm Steve Cully, the best podcast host in the universe. Remember, when life gives you lemons, don't make lemonade. Take 2 oranges and just throw them at the janitors.